Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Hello, am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you're audible, Ashita.
Sorry, I had some technical glitches. I, CA Ashita Shah, on behalf of Women Members Empowerment Committee of ICAI, welcome you all in the Sky High Symposium number 28. Sky High Symposium is a Wednesday series of programs conducted by the Committee for the Women and by the Women. It is one of the Women Members Empowerment Committee's initiatives to not only disseminate information to women members on technical updation and non-technical skills, but also to empower and inspire women members to come at forefront and realize their verbal skills at public forum. Today, we are going to cover session on amendments and issues in TDS TCS provisions, useful tools for team management and better CA practice. For our first session, we have CA Hetal Gadda with us. To formally introduce CA Hetal Gadda, I request Shilpa Surana ma'am. Shilpa Surana ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Ashita. Good evening to everyone. It is my privilege to join the symposium today evening, and I thank the organizers for having contacted me and making me a part of the symposium today. To introduce CA Hetal, CA Hetal Vinit Gada is a member of ICAI since 2010. She is associated with CGCA and Associates LLP since more than a decade. Her area of specialization is direct taxation. She also engages in audits, litigation, tax filings, and compliances. She has written articles in professional journals, taken lectures for student members at professional forums, and for members at Dadar East PP Study Circle. She was also a group leader in RRC 21 of Dadar East CPE Study Circle for direct tax paper. With this, I welcome you, Hetal ma'am, and I hand over the session to you. Thank you.
Can I proceed? I'll share my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Am I audible and is my screen visible as well?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the Women's Member Empowerment Committee and CA Preeti Savla for giving me this opportunity to present the paper today on amendment to TDS and TCS provisions. Thank you, Ashita. Thank you, Shilpa ji, for such a brief and a kind introduction. This topic is way too huge. So I think it might not get covered in the time span that we have today. But let me try and do whatever best I can so that I can share my knowledge with you. Going forward, what I have planned is I will take all those amendments that have happened in Finance Act 2022, 2021, and if time permits, it would be 2020 as well. All of you must be aware that, again, this just a disclaimer that I have tried to cover only the important ones and which are applicable to us on a daily basis, or we have implication on a daily basis. So try to take up those provisions only. My first will be amendment in Finance Act 2022, and that pertains to Section 194R. So all of us are not really well versed with Section 24(4) because its applicability has not been tested really. And so is the case with the government as well. The section is about benefit or perquisite accruing to an individual or any entity by virtue of them exercising their business or profession. And it is a benefit that arises to them because of the business or profession, and it could be convertible into money or otherwise. So Just 1 second. Yeah. Yeah. So this section was always there in the chargeability section of the head business and profession. But if and generally by this we understand that the benefit has been given in kind, because that is what it doesn't come to be does not get covered anywhere. As in, it is not apparent, or no one can make out such kind of benefit which is being passed over. It's when it is in kind. So the government always had this problem as to how to capture such kind of transactions. It would be only possible when there's an honest taxpayer who declares on its own, which no one would otherwise do or even understand that it's a benefit. So then, in order to capture those kind of transactions, in order to deepen the tax base, the government thought of introducing or putting a liability on the person providing such kind of benefit to the other party. So with this, there was an introduction of Section 194R in Finance Act 2022. Now, why am I producing the memorandum and finance minister's speech? I think the moment we keep studying the section, the circular, we'll get to know why it is always relevant to revisit the memorandum, because that is the time when it will give you a proper intention as to what the government wanted to and what has come out actually. So I have just produced the extract of the memorandum here. I'll just read out, but the focus will be on some key points which needs to be kept in mind. When we come back to the circular, we'll come to know why these points are really relevant or why these points are really important. So 28.4, like I told you, is value of any benefit or perquisite convertible into money or not, arising from business or exercise of profession. So here it is trying to say, the memorandum is trying to say that all those transactions which are otherwise covered under 24.4 should emanate from the business activity or the professional activity of an individual. And by virtue of that, if he is getting any benefit, then such kind of income gets taxed into 28.4. And that income which gets taxed under 28.4 is where the implications of 194R will come in. This was the memorandum extract. Now, in the finance minister's speech as well, the intention is clearly spelled out by the FM, saying that they have noticed a lot of business benefits are getting passed over to the agents. Say I'm a manufacturing entity and I want to sell my product to to the public at large. So how do I go about this? I will always approach the dealers, the distributors, or the agents, and those are the people who will help me reach out maximum crowd or public at large. Now, I will have to keep them motivated so that they can sell my products over the others. And by virtue of that, I will try and pass over some incentive, some benefit to them. Now, such kind of transactions, when in kind, do not get covered, and hence the ministry is also trying to plug in such kind of transactions. So let's keep in mind the intention spelled out by the government in the memorandum and in the finance minister's speech. And let us then go ahead and see whether the circular which they have issued for the FAQs, do they come in line with the intention or they say something else? We'll see it over the next slides. Now, I'll just come to the main provision which says, so what is the nature of transaction is benefit or perquisite, whether convertible into money or not, arising from business of exercise or profession. Now, what do we really mean by the term benefit? So benefit could be advantage or privilege, and perquisite. So both of the definitions, both of the terms are not really defined under the Act, but perquisite we understand from the chapter salary, where you have perquisite under section 17. But obviously this is from business, so those kind of perquisites do not get covered here. And perquisite could be something where an obligation is met. So obligation for a person is met by some other person, directly or indirectly. So somewhere or the other, we are trying to give that additional benefit. Even in business or while exercising profession as a consultant, I am going to get my regular fees as usual for the services that I've given. But something which I get over and above this is going to be that benefit or perquisite which will arise to me. let's look at so this is the broad term of benefit or perquisite. I think we should test. So every scenario will have a different meaning. But I think if we are conceptually on what could be benefit or perquisite, that will give answers to a lot of questions. Obviously, this provision has been introduced to capture tax at large, but it is no way giving you leeway from litigation. It's going to be huge in terms of interpretation, what the department is doing and what we as an assessee are interpreting. Coming to the provisions, 194R, like I told you, is for benefit or perquisite. The liability will be on the person who is responsible for providing that benefit. And the person who is providing the benefit could be a resident or could be a non-resident. But the person who receives it has to be resident, very clearly defined in the section. Now, if the company is an entity who is providing such benefit, then it will be the company who will be liable to deduct TDS, and it could be the principal officer as well. What kind of entities are not under the purview of or are not liable to deduct TDS under this section? So any individuals or HUF, mind you, just keep this in mind. It could be individual and HUF only who are into business, but who, they have a threshold limit defined, which is 1 crore in the case of business and 50 lakhs in the case of professional fees. If such kind of incomes do not cross this threshold limit, then TDS is not required to be deducted. Now, what will be the threshold limit if all the other criteria are fulfilled? So any benefit or perquisite passed over, where the value of the benefit is exceeding 20,000 during a financial year, is the time when this liability will come up. Now, the rate of tax would be 10% on, again, the value that will be determined. Now, unlike all the other TDS sections where it is payment or credit, whichever is earlier, here it is trying to say, okay, before you pass over that benefit or perquisite to any other person, only that is the time. So before that, you have to ensure that you have deducted TDS of that person to whom you are providing benefit. Now, this provision is applicable from 1st July 2022. Probably it was because the government wanted to ensure that people are very well versed with these kind of provisions and are prepared in terms of their software or in terms of their business transactions. Now, but there is one question answered or clarified by the FAQ is that what will be, so when is the time when I have to check whether that 20,000 limit has been crossed? So in the section, if you read, it specifies for a financial year. So the CBDT in the circular has clarified that financial year 22-23, the whole year, that is the year starting from 1st April 22. If I'm entering into a such kind of a transaction where right from 1st April 22, I have been given some benefit. So 20,000 will start from day one. Though the taxability, so taxability, even if 20,000 is crossing between 1st April to 1st July, I will not deduct TDS. The moment after 1st July, I'm still continuing with giving those benefits, then on that amount, it will be taxable because the law was not there from 1st April. It is only for the purpose of the calculating the limits of 20,000. So this has to be kept in mind. Now, generally, there are a lot of sections where I would want to claim or go for a lower TDS or a nil TDS because even though benefit accrues to me, ultimately there is nothing that is taxable. But 197, so 197 is a section where the lower TDS application is made to the assessing officer. Now, there is no reference of 194R, which means it is a mandate that I have to deduct TDS whenever the conditions are fulfilled. No possibility of doing a no TDS or a lower TDS. Now, when we read the definition of 28.4, it is trying to say, or there's a similar wording in 194R and 28.4, which is trying to say that any benefit or perquisite, whether convertible into money or not. So these words are really important. This gives an implication or an impression that what kind of transactions are covered transactions in kind. So here they are trying to define that there could be transactions which are in kind. There could be transactions which are partly in cash, partly in kind. So in case where there is insufficient cash, when it is in kind or when partly in cash, partly in kind, then how will you deduct TDS? So they are trying to say, okay, you have to ensure that the other person has incorporated the benefit in his income and he has paid advance tax. So again, going by the time as to when this should happen, the person who is giving the benefit has to ensure that before him passing over the benefit, the other party, while computing his advance tax, has done this or not. So this is basically the whole section of 194R. Now let us go to the circular. So subsection 3 under 194R has granted powers to the CBDT to issue guidelines in case there are certain difficulties or giving some clarifications. So by virtue of that, the CBDT has come out with two circulars. One is 12/20 of 2022 dated 16 June and the other one is 18 of 2022 dated 13 September. Now let us try and understand. In the section, it is trying to say that these guidelines will be issued and will be kept before both the houses of the parliament for sanction. Okay. This guidelines has come to us by way of a circular. Now, generally, we know that circulars are never binding to the assessee. They can be binding on the assessing officer or the revenue authorities. Ideally, and the whole purpose of issuing a circular is to give more clarity, try to give the real intention or the meaning of what the government intended at the time of incorporating the provision. Further, this circular definitely is restricted to what the provisions are saying, and that can never go beyond the provisions per se. Second thing is these kind of circulars or provisions generally are incorporated or interpreted by the High Court and the Supreme Court, all the authorities. But once a High Court or Supreme Court has laid down an understanding, these circulars cannot bypass those judgments as well, because it is a very well established principle that any law which has been interpreted and a verdict has been given by Supreme Court or a High Court, it is the law of land. The only way where you can surpass this decisions of the High Court or Supreme Court would be when you have to bring an amendment in the Act itself. So circulars do not have in power to go beyond this. Now, why am I trying to say all this is once we come on to circular, like I told you, all this is going to impact. I mean, the intention, the powers of the circular, and whether it will help me to contend that though circular has given me some reasoning, can I still overpass it or not? Now, if you read the section, it says that guidelines will be put before the both the houses of parliament, and it will be to remove difficulties for the assessing. And it goes further to say that it will be binding on the revenue authorities as well as on the assessing. But if you go with the intention, it is trying to say that guidelines will be binding on me as an assessee only and only if they are removing difficulties. If they are adding on to my difficulties or if they are going beyond the scope, I can very well argue that this cannot be applicable and the section will not apply to me. So let's keep in mind. So we saw memorandum, we saw finance speech of the budget of finance minister's budget, and now the circular's power. Let's keep in mind and let's go ahead with the FAQs that have been issued. We'll get to know the difference as to what CBDT is interpreting and what the government is trying to say. So there is FAQ 1, which is trying to say whether benefit or perquisite do we need to check while deducting TDS as to whether it is taxable or not. Now, a very simple and a plain answer given by the FAQ is no. But previously, when we saw 28.4 refers to the wordings that it should arise from the business and profession and it should be taxable. But here the FAQ is trying to say, no, you need not check the taxability. If it's a benefit or a perquisite, just tax it out, just do a TDS. Now, here they are also doing a comparison to section 195. Now, there are words used in 195. It says any sum chargeable to tax. The circular is clarifying to say that no such similar wordings have been used in 194R. Hence, if that was the intent, the government would have added these words. So don't check for such taxability of benefit or perquisite. Now, a very general or a usual concept that we know for TDS is it is an early collection by the government or an alternative method of collection of taxes. So government did not want to wait till 1.5 year when the assessee filing the return. It wanted to collect taxes at early stage. But taxes can be collected only when it is taxable or where there is income. And this is very clearly spelled out in section 4.2 of the Act, which says that 4.2 provides that in respect of income chargeable under 4.1, the income tax shall be deducted at source or paid in advance, whether deductible or payable under any provisions. So TDS comes into play only and only if the income is chargeable to tax. Next, we have section 190 pertaining to the all TDS provision, which is also trying to say that TDS has to be deducted only and only if there is income. So with all these provisions, the FAQ is really and absolutely contrary to what the intent is. I mean, the FAQ just spells out that you need not check the taxability, whereas a TDS cannot be attracted if there is no taxability. So this is a contrary view given by FAQ. We can, like we discussed the circular, we can always try and put forth that because there is no taxability in the hands of the recipient, TDS can be bypassed. Need to be tested, but won't be easy, will be litigative since there is a circular on this fact. The AO will have to follow because it's binding on the authority. So there will be litigation to and fro. Yeah, so like we discussed, it is contrary to the basic concept of income element. So this is FAQ 1. We come to FAQ 2, which says that whether benefit or perquisite must be in kind. So if you read the section, it says it could be in kind. It could be partly in cash, partly in kind. These are the two words very specifically used in the section. Also, your wordings of the main section, which says benefit or perquisite, whether convertible into money or not. This also gives you an impression that benefit or perquisite has to be in kind. But the circular is trying to add another scenario, which is trying to say benefit or perquisite in cash as well. Now, there is a very famous and an established judgment in the case of Mahindra and Mahindra laid down by the Supreme Court. This is in terms of loan waiver, where whether the waiver of loan should be considered under 28(4) or not. And the Supreme Court had very clearly said that at the time of taking the loan, there was receipt of cash. And such kind of, and on waiver, you cannot say that this was a transaction in kind because the money has already been received by the borrower. So such kind of transactions will not get covered, which means it is trying to clearly spell out the fact that benefit or perquisite in cash will not be covered under 28(4). If not covered under 28(4), definitely not a part of 194R as well. Like we discussed previously, this judgment by Supreme Court is law of land. It still holds good because there is no contrary judgment given by the Supreme Court by another bench, or there is no contrary incorporation of any new provisions to bypass or overrule this particular Supreme Court judgment. Hence, again, coming back, if I have to compare what will have priority, whether this FAQ 2 or the Supreme Court judgment in Mahindra, definitely Supreme Court of Mahindra and Mahindra will hold good. So again, no mention of this judgment. They have given a reference to another judgment, which is not even in context of this particular. So then I think we can very well try and argue that perquisite in cash should not be covered. Coming to FAQ 3, which is trying to cover whether a benefit or perquisite can be in the form of capital asset. Yes, because there are a lot of judicial pronouncements in the context of 28(4), which is trying to say that you need not check whether that benefit or perquisite is revenue in nature or capital in nature. If it is capital in nature, definitely yes. The next question, so very well answered and very well taken. The next question comes as to when, so capital asset could be land, could be car, could be rights, could be many more things. But if it's a depreciable asset, which I'm receiving as a benefit or a perquisite, then whether I will be eligible to take depreciation. So this was clarified by second circular of the CBDT, which says that yes, if the assessee to whom this car was provided, I'm taking car as an example of a depreciable asset. If it is taken or if it is received by the assessee, then, and if he's offering the same as benefit or perquisite in his income tax return for that year, the cost or the amount at which he's offering as income will be considered as cost for the purpose of depreciation, and depreciation can very well be taken on such kind of assets. The only hitch till now is that the cost of an asset is defined under section 43(1). But however, there has been no amendment till date in these provisions. So it's a beneficial provision. Maybe we can go ahead with it, but we'll have to check that whether the government comes out with some change in the definition in the next budget or so. Yeah. Next, we come to whether sales discount, cash discount, and rebates are benefit or perquisite. Now, here the FAQ is trying to say that no, sale discount, cash discount, or rebate will not be called or eligible for benefit or perquisite. Indirectly, maybe yes, they are, but it is like a reduction in the purchase price of the recipient. So, as we initially discussed, that in the course of my business, if I'm receiving some income and I'm receiving any benefit over and above my income, then that could be something which is a benefit or a perquisite. In this case, there is a reduction in the price, and like I'm saying, amount saved is not the same as amount of income received in pocket. So any additional thing which I receive, yes, is a benefit, but some discount that I'm getting on an existing price will be clearly out of the purview of Section 194R. However, they are further clarifying that if there is free sample given, then that free sample will definitely be counted as benefit or perquisite. Now, the reasoning they are giving is it will be utilized ultimately. So what happens is, like in the first example where we said that manufacturer, in order to get his product marketed, he will give some incentive or some samples to dealers so that it can be further given to customers to try it out. Now, there's a possibility that the dealers might use it, might not use it. There's a possibility that customers might use it, customers might not use it. Now, when it goes to dealer and ultimately going to customer, actually the ultimate benefit is not the dealer. He's just passing it over as a mediator. But still, the FAQ says that in such a scenario, manufacturer is liable to deduct TDS from the dealer, even though the end use is not done by the dealer. So is the case when the dealer is ultimately giving it to the customer, it has to deduct TDS. But the customers could be way too huge. You might not be able to identify. So there'll be practical difficulty as to who will, in whose name will TDS be deducted. So maybe it could be the dealer who will have to bear the brunt of this TDS implications. Now, such kind of samples, if passed over to any entity, and if say that an owner or a shareholder or a director or a relative of any employee is using that product, the manufacturer or the entity passing it over will never know it. So it has been clarified that in order to avoid practical difficulties arising, the TDS will be deducted in the hands of the recipient entity. So entity could be a company or an LP or a firm. Because ultimately it is trying to say that the owner or the director or the relative is connected to the recipient entity by virtue of this business, and recipient entity is ultimately doing or dealing in business transactions with the person providing. So there is some benefit indirectly, directly getting passed over, and hence, in order to track such kind of transactions and to put TDS implications, it will be the recipient entity who will be in whose name the TDS will be deducted. Now, they have defined an example here where they are trying to say free samples given to doctors. That doctors could either be a consultant to the hospital or that doctor could be an employee of that hospital. In this scenario, TDS will be deducted in the hands of the hospital. Now, hospital will in turn show this as perquisites in the hand of director, charge him that and claim expenses. So too much of compliances, but hospital will ultimately get the benefit of deduction as well. And then the final doctor will be either taxed under 192 if he's an employee, or if he's an independent consultant, then he'll be taxed accordingly. Same mechanism will be there, but indirectly the doctor is getting taxed somewhere or the other. Now, there could be various examples where there are incentives or loyalty bonus, or where there could be additional products, cash incentive. Every case will have to be determined to understand whether there is a characteristic of the benefit of perquisite and so. So that needs to be checked and kept in mind. Yeah. So this is it. I think we'll go to the next FAQ, which is FAQ 5, valuation of benefit or perquisite. Now, like we know and how we understand this, it is in kind. But how do you value something which is in kind? So the FAQ has clarified that in case the entity who's providing it is simply purchasing it from a person and giving it to you, then it will be the purchase cost. However, if it is an entity who is into manufacturing and giving its products to the others or some other products which is getting manufactured at his end, then it should be the price at which it would sell to an ultimate customer. So these two clarifications. So basically, they are trying to come with a fact that the fair market value should be the value which should be considered for that benefit of perquisite while taxing or while doing the TDS. And also further clarification they've given is GST will not be part of this value. So say if I have 100 rupees of the benefit and there's 18 rupees of GST, my TDS will be deducted on the 100 rupees and GST will be excluded for the same. Then, so today we know, coming to FAQ 6, today we know that how social media has a bigger role to play for any brand who is into goods and all, for any brand to market its product. The channels are your Instagram, your YouTube, Facebook. There are many channels which give you an easy access to this product, and marketing is the best when it comes to these kind of social media influencers. So the company or the brand might like to pass over that product to the social media influencer who will ultimately, by making a reel or by making a video, show the benefits of that product. There'll be followers who will be inspired or motivated by him saying that, okay, if he's saying the product is good, I should try it out. In such a scenario, what should be the taxability if such products are handed over to social media influencers? So the FAQ addresses to this saying that if such kind of products are to be returned by the influencer back to the company, then there'll be no TDS. But if the social media influencer is to retain, so example could be a car where he's just trying to describe the main characteristics of the USPs of those cars, that car may be returned back to him. But alternatively, some products where say it's a microwave or it's some consumable products, if those are passed over to him, he might not be required to return it back, he can retain it. So when he's retaining the same, he is definitely liable to, so the company providing the same is definitely liable to deduct TDS. Now, still after this FAQ, there are still unanswered questions which says that if there is a social media influencer who is, say, purchasing some product at a nominal price, whether still will there be a benefit or a perquisite in his case? Alternatively, if as a social media influencer, I am giving my services of marketing your product, and in lieu of that or in place of that, you are giving me that product itself. So it is actually a business income for me or a professional income for me, where I'm trying to put forth, trying to do a barter with you. I'll give you my services and you in turn give me your product. Whether it will still be qualified as a benefit or perquisite under Section 194R. So it will definitely be his income, no doubt about it, because he's earning that in time. But whether will it be a benefit or perquisite, taxable or subject to TDS under 194R, that needs to be understood. Coming to FAQ 7, reimbursement of out-of-pocket expenses. So there is an FAQ 7 which says that if as a consultant I am supposed to incur expenses, but it gets reimbursed by the company to me, then it is somehow a benefit to me, and which is very weird and absurd, because we would always do a back-to-back billing. If we are incurring any expenses, then we will try and get a reimbursement done. Here, the clarification that they've given is that if the expenditure, say for example, I am going to a client place, say in Delhi, and I have to fly from Bombay to Delhi, so the travel expenses will be incurred by me. If the travel expenses are, or the expense or the invoice is in the name of the client, I am making the payment and he's just reimbursing to me, then in that case, there'll be no TDS under this section. But if it is not in his name, even though he is paying it to me or reimbursing it to me and claiming expense in his books, but the mere fact that the invoice is not in his name, then there'll be still a TDS liability, which is very, very absurd. Just having a nomenclature of a bill which will distinguish whether TDS is liable or not is very weird. So this is the scenario right now. We have to live with it. There was a clarification in a previous circular somewhere around 1995, which says that under 194C and 194J, if out-of-pocket expenses are a part of the invoice of that particular consultant, in that scenario, TDS will have to be deducted. If it's a separate debit note, maybe not. So 194R, there was a requirement to clarify whether TDS would be deducted twice under 194C and J and 194R, or if one TDS has been deducted, that should be sufficient. So they have clarified, saying that if it is already done under 194C or J, then 194R need not be done. So this was a clarification given by them. Then dealer conferences. So we know a lot of entities, in order to spread the market for their products, conduct educational programs, conferences, where there is a specific training happening for dealers. So in such kind of conferences, they are trying to say, if the purpose is to educate the dealer, or maybe make him learn new sale techniques or something like that, in such a scenario, it will not be benefit or perquisite. But in addition to these conferences, if I invite his family as well, who will stay with them while they are attending the conference, or maybe if I'm sponsoring some trip to a particular dealer, a leisure trip maybe, or something over and above my educational training, then yes, and definitely yes, the TDS will be deducted. A clarification was given in the second circular, which says that a lot of times when you're traveling to another place, there could be an overnight stay, or maybe an overnight stay a previous day or the next day. In such a scenario, they have clarified that no, this will not be considered as additional benefit and not subject to TDS. Then, one more clarification was asked, was that when you are having a conference of say 100, 200 people or public or your dealers at large, it will not be possible to allocate one particular benefit to a person, or it will not be possible for me to determine, okay, X got so much of benefit, Z got so much of benefit, Y got so much of benefit. In such a scenario, how do we determine, or how do we tax this 194R? So in that scenario, they've clarified that if it is difficult to not determine or attribute one amount of benefit or a value to a particular benefit, then in such a scenario, the entity who is expending on such conferences or such benefits, they will have to disallow these kind of expenses in their income tax return. And if they do this, then they will not be liable to deduction under 194R, because already they are disallowing those expenses. They are not claiming those expenses. And by virtue of that, they will not be assessing default. So this is again very weird, because I am expending so much of it and then I have to disallow it back. So to come out of this 194R, I might have to disallow it back in my income tax computation. Then in the second circular, they've given relaxation to certain category of banks and financial institutions for loan waiver or loan settlement. So in the transaction of a loan, what happens is, as a borrower, say I'm not in a capacity to repay the same, I would try and bargain with the the lending entity as to settle at a lower value, or maybe just waive off some part of it or waive the whole part of it. So there is some benefit accruing to me in this. So they, even in such a scenario, they are trying to say that yes, there will be TDS implication. Now, already that bank is suffering from a loss because he is not receiving the money back from the borrower. In addition to that, you are putting a burden on him to say that, Array, you have to now also deduct TDS because the other party is benefiting. Now, this amount, when I'm already not paying to the bank, how will I be able to give him back the TDS amount as well? So it's like an additional burden on the bank. So there they've given a relaxation to say, yeah, okay, we understand the scenario and don't deduct TDS in such a kind of case. Now, the weird thing here is that they are trying to give relaxation only to a particular category of banks and financial institutions. What about those entities where there is genuine waiver of loan? I mean, entities and a third party, maybe it could be private companies, other entities, but there is genuine waiver of loan. No clarification. So which means there the burden still has to be borne by those kind of entities. Now, in this case, they have also further gone one step ahead to say that even though we are giving you a relaxation under this provision of 194R, this does not by any mean that this amount will not be taxable in the hands of the person who's receiving benefit of loan waiver. Coming to loan waiver, we'll have to see whether Mahindra and Mahindra decision needs to be followed and whether it will still come out of purview of 28(4) or not. But they've clarified from their end. The next issue that they picked up in the next circular of FAQ, bearing FAQ 7 is that when a bonus share is issued or a right share is issued by a listed company, whether it will be benefit or perquisite. In that scenario, they're trying to say it will not be. In both the cases, there will be no TDS implications because bonus shares are issued to shareholder across the whole company. And so it's not that I am giving any specific benefit to any particular person or an individual or an entity. It is across all the shareholders. So there is no change in the rights. There is no change in the shareholding. The ratio pre-bonus and post-bonus is going to be the same. So then hence no benefit and no TDS. So is the case. So right share, someone might want to argue that not everyone is going to offer a right issue. But what they have tried to say is that if the entity who's giving this or issuing the right shares has made an offer to all the shareholders, and by virtue of that, I am not distinguishing as an entity. I am not distinguishing as to benefit being given to a few people. Hence, even though right shares might be offered by a few people, but offered to all, then even in that case, there'll be no benefit or perquisite. So these are the clarifications given under 194R circulars. It doesn't seem to be that easy in such scenario. I mean, it is going to be a lot of litigation because nothing is straightforward. Given their interpretation, we can understand that where is CBDT's intention and where is the government's intention. There is way too much of gap. So be prepared for some litigation coming under this section. Now, I think I'll move forward to 194S, which is transfer on virtual digital asset. What do you mean by a virtual digital asset? So there's a very complicated definition given under the Act. I would just put it in 2 words. It is cryptocurrency, which is very well versed and very well known to us. So cryptocurrency or blockchains and all that. A lot of provisions have been enacted in the Finance Act to capture. So still the government and the RBI has not recognized it as a digital currency, but they understand the kind of transactions that are happening across the world over. So in order to capture such kind of transactions as well, they've come up with taxing provisions as well as TDS provisions. So here they are trying to put on a liability on the person who is responsible for paying the amount to you when there's a transfer of the virtual digital asset, and it could be a resident, it could not. It could the person who is responsible for paying could be a non-resident as well. But the person who is receiving the consideration or who is selling it has to be a resident in India. There's a threshold limit of 50,000 in case of specified persons, and other than specified person, it is 10,000. Now let us look into the fact that who is a specified person. So an individual who does not have business income or professional income, or an individual who has business or professional income but does not exceed the threshold limit of 1 crore in business and 50 lakhs in profession. Such kind of individuals are out of the asked in the purview of 194S, but there's a threshold of 50,000 for them. And the rate of TDS is 1%. Now, this is just like any other section where it tries to say that TDS will be deducted at the time of credit or payment, whichever is earlier. Now, TDS, yeah. So tax deduction, again, similar scenario where they're trying to say that if I am doing a barter transaction, that is, if the other entity is also giving me cryptocurrency or a blockchain and I'm passing over some other kind of cryptocurrency to him, there's an exchange. Then if such kind of transfers are in kind or party in cash, party in kind, how do we go about with 194S TDS? In that scenario, it is the same as we saw in 194R, which says that if there is insufficient cash to deduct TDS, then the party who's providing or paying consideration has to ensure that the person who's receiving the consideration has in his advance tax offered income and paid advance tax. And to that extent, he should take the copy of Chalan for his records that, yes, I have verified, and that's why I'm not deducting any 194S on this. Again, this section is applicable from 1st July 22. And like we discussed in 194R, the whole year will be relevant from 1st April to check the limits or threshold limit given. But deductibility of TDS will be only post transactions happening after 1st July 22. Similar, no reference of this section in 197, which means I cannot apply for a lower TDS in this. And I'm mandatory supposed to deduct TDS on the given rate. Now, a different thing here in this section is that specified persons. So we saw the list, the specified persons. They are not required to obtain TAN, and in case those persons have not filed return of income for the previous 2 years, then there's a section 206 AB which says that if non-filing of return for 2 immediately preceding previous years, then higher rate of TDS will apply. So under 194S, they've given a relaxation that, okay, even if they have not filed a return of income, we will not levy a higher rate. 1% should be good to go. Yeah. So now again, another circular, similar to 194R guidelines. So the CBT was given the power to issue guidelines to remove difficulties. They came out with circular number 13 of 2022 to give clarifications. So a lot of these kind of transactions are happening on exchange or some platforms. So I have just got this table from some material which says that if this scenario happens, what would be the implication? I've just reproduced it here because it is easy to understand rather than going with the plain FAQ. So we can just run through this. So the heading, so there is a seller, there is a buyer. So there is someone who's selling it, there is a person who is buying it. Possible that they are doing it directly on the exchange, possible that they are routing it through a broker. The transaction could be two types, one in cash, one in kind. So kind is where we are trying to say there's a barter of one currency against the other. So in all these scenarios, who will be the person who will be liable to tax? So when on an exchange platform, I really don't know who the other person is. And there could be multiple people involved in the whole chain. So to ease out onto the collection of TDS, they've given a clarification that in the scenario one, where the seller and the buyer could be any person and there's no broker involved, it would be the exchange responsibility to deduct TDS from in the hands of deduct TDS against the seller. Then what if the seller is the broker and the buyer is some other person? Even in such a scenario, the exchange is required to deduct TDS. Then third scenario where seller and buyer are different people, but yes, they are routing this transaction through a broker like we do in shares or securities market, and the transaction is in cash. In such a scenario, both exchange and the broker, any one of them can do it. And broker will deduct if there's an arrangement between broker and exchange, the broker will deduct. So because to avoid double deduction by both of them, the broker should enter into an agreement with the exchange to say that if I'm deducting, I will do it so that the exchange will not do it. The next one is where exchange itself is a seller and the buyer is someone else. In such a case, and again, no broker is involved and the transaction is in cash, then exchange and the buyer both will be liable to deduct TDS. But if the exchange is trying to say that why I'm writing exchange and buyer both is otherwise the preliminary liabilities of the buyer. But if the exchange is trying to say that no, I will consider this income in my advanced tax computation and I will pay tax, or I have paid tax, then in that scenario, buyer need not do TDS. It can simply take a declaration from the exchange that it has considered this income. Now, similar 4 scenarios that we looked into cash, but now in kind, what could be the implications? So again, coming back where the seller and the buyer is some third party and no broker is involved. But the transaction is in kind. So kind is where I am giving a currency and I'm receiving a currency against each other. So in this case, I'm a buyer as well, I'm a seller as well. And so is the case with the other person. He's a buyer and seller as well. So both will have to deduct TDS, or maybe both will have to pay taxes and share the relevant evidence that I have paid tax on that. Alternatively, exchange, if both of them come on the table with the exchange to say that, okay, we agree that you are the person who will deduct TDS, then the exchange has exchange can deduct TDS in both our cases, seller as well as buyer. In a scenario where broker is the seller, there's a buyer, and so broker himself is the person who's holding VDA. Then in that case, what will happen? So it will be the broker and the seller who will pay the taxes. It's just a replacement of the buyer and seller in the previous example. And same, exchange will have an alternative to deduct TDS if both the parties agree. Then a scenario where seller and buyer both are individual persons. Here the broker is involved. So here 3 scenarios are possible. In addition to buyer and seller paying their respective taxes, the exchange and broker both will be allowed to deduct TDS, but to avoid double deduction by both of them, exchange or the broker will have to come to an agreement with the exchange that, okay, I'm doing it, so you don't do it. And then the next scenario is where exchange himself is the seller and buyer is some other party and no broker involved, but the transaction is in kind. So agreement between the buyer and exchange, that exchange will try and declare, so otherwise the liability is on the buyer again, but exchange will try and say that I have paid taxes, so you need not deduct TDS on this. So this is the FAQ 1 in the circular, which has been put in the table because it's easier to understand this way. Then FAQ issued, further FAQs issued for 194S where there could be a scenario where for some people, this will be goods. The BDA will be goods for them. They transact daily in and out in this. Now, we are very well aware that in the previous budget, 194Q provisions, purchase of goods had TDS implications. So in that scenario, it is trying to understand that if 194Q is also applicable for the purchaser and 194S is also applicable, which will prevail over the other. So if 194S has been done, then 194Q need not be done. To that extent, a declaration will have to be taken by the purchaser that 194S section mein TDS ho gaya hai. Then again, while computing the amount on which the TDS has to be deducted, no GST will be included, which means net of GST, the amount will be determined to deduct TDS. Now, if you will see, there is another section of 194O, which is intermingling with 194S, as in, so 194O we understand is TDS on e-commerce transactions where there's a platform, digital platform given. Say, for example, it could be Amazon, which is a digital aggregator. Then there is a Paytm where we make the payments and all. So such kind of payment gateways are covered under 194O, where if the transaction happens on their platform beyond a particular limit, then you are required to deduct TDS. Now, in this scenario as well, say I'm doing a transaction of BDA and the payment is getting exchanged on the platform of Paytm or whatever, some other payment gateway. So again, there's a double deduction because the buyer will also do TDS under 194S and the aggregator or the payment gateway will also have to do because it is happening on his platform. So he will have to deduct under 194O. Double deduction on the same transaction. So a clarification was asked and they've given a relaxation to the payment gateway to not deduct TDS, provided the buyer has deducted TDS on the 194S. And on the safer side, the payment gateway will have to take a declaration from the buyer that he has done the needful. So this was the FAQ for 194S. Then we have one more provision. So we are very well versed with TDS on transfer of certain immovable property. So this is where I am purchasing any immovable property from other person. I am a resident. So the seller is a resident and the buyer could be resident, non-resident. The buyer is required to, if the threshold limit of 50 lakhs is surpassed, if the transaction is of 50 lakhs or more, then he is supposed to deduct TDS at the rate of 1%. Now, there has been some amendment here. What the CBDT is trying to say is that, say, for example, my consideration is lower than 50 lakhs, but my stamp duty value is more than 50 lakhs. So because the older provision only considered the amount of consideration for the threshold limit of 50 lakhs only in the case of consideration, they asked if they didn't get to know whether such kind of transactions were not reported or were not getting reflected under the purview of TDS. Sometimes they escaped, this kind of transactions just escape. Generally, I still fail to understand because any transaction beyond 30 lakhs is always with the registrar who is supposed to file an SFT and the transactions get reported. But still they went ahead to say that, no, we are still not getting data. So we are bringing another twist where we are trying to say, okay, consideration or stamp duty value, whichever crosses 50 lakhs, then this section becomes applicable. So in addition to consideration, I now will have to even check the stamp duty value while going ahead to test out whether TDS is deductible in this or not. But if say both stamp duty value or consideration do not exceed 50 lakh, then this section is not triggered. It's either of one of them happens to cross 50 lakh limit, then yes. What would be the amount on which the TDS will be deducted? So now it will be 1% of consideration or stamp duty value, whichever is higher. So say either one of them crosses 50, then the higher amount will be liable to TDS under this section at 1%, at the rate of 1%. Now, issue here is, for the purpose of determining the stamp duty value, what date are you going to consider? Is it going to be the date of allotment, date of agreement, or date of registration? Say, for example, I have taken a property which is under construction. I have taken it. I have just taken paid my token amount, and a letter of allotment has been given to me by the builder. Then there'll be an X value on the date of allotment. Say after 5 years, so I've been making him payment as per the installments that are defined. After say 5 years, I'm entering into an agreement with the builder. And then say after a year or so, I register it. Now my stamp duty value is going to be different at all points in time. Nothing has been clarified to under the provisions or anywhere by way of an FAQ or anything as to what should be the date that should be considered. I understand for other provisions also, we are trying to check the date of allotment where I can very well prove that, I have been making payments, and I had taken this or booked this property, say 5 years back when a letter of allotment was issued to me. I understand the stamp duty should be taken for that date. Again, some clarity needs to be given by the CBT, otherwise it will give rise to a lot of litigations. Do I proceed, because the time is already 6 o'clock? So let me know. Should I go ahead with the next amendments or not? Shilpa or Ashita, anyone, if you can just tell me if I go ahead. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just continue. If there's an interruption in between, I'll just check with it. Yeah. So coming to amendments, so these were the 3 amendments that we saw in Finance Act 2022. Like I told you, I've just picked up the important ones. Coming to amendments that have happened in Finance Act 2021. Here, 194P was introduced, where it is trying to deduct TDS in case of specified senior citizen. Now, who is a specified senior citizen? Let's look into that. A person who is a resident individual, he is of the age of 75 years or more, and he has no other income but only the pension income and the interest income from the same bank where he's getting the pension income. Such, if a senior citizen is qualifying or eligible for such or fulfilling this kind of criteria, then he will qualify as a specified senior citizen. Now, in such a scenario, if I qualify as a specified citizen and I have no other income, then a benefit has been given in order to ease out their compliance of filing the return, that we have notified those banks. And if you have a pension account with those banks, you have to simply give a declaration to that bank, and they will deduct TDS as per whatever calculation of pension and interest that might arise as per the slabs. And after that is done, I, as a senior citizen, will not be required to file any income tax return. Very welcome move, but very restricted and very narrowed down to a few incomes. So if I have an income from saving banks or an interest on FD, then I should still be eligible. Now, what if I have exempt income? If such a specified senior citizen also earns exempt income, no clarification in the provisions, but if we take a liberal view, that is not going to any which ways affect his taxability. So I think still a person should be eligible. Then the banks will have to then coming to next, bank will have to determine as to whether he falls under new or old, and what is more beneficial, they will have to accordingly deduct TDS against this name. Then, what if I have accounts with more than 2 banks having interest income? I understand such kind of situation. When there's such kind of situation, specified senior citizen will not be eligible to claim exemption. While so there's a declaration which he will have to give to the bank saying that I have another bank account as well. If he fails to do it, and if the income tax department realizes later, then he might be in some mess. So I think that is a declaration. Now, one trigger or one characteristics here is that it looks very attractive and very apparent that okay, they are helping out the senior citizen. But if you see the declaration format, which is I suppose in Form 12 BBA, in that scenario, it asks for a pension payment order number, and that pension payment order number is only and only given to government employees. So I understand it is not open to public at large, but only to restricted category of people. Yeah. Should I go ahead, because the next one is 194Q, which will take good amount of time. So if anyone can let me know, should I proceed with it or not? Okay. I just got a message from the team saying that I need to wind up. I have a lot other provisions of Finance Act 2021. What I can do is maybe we cannot rush up through everything. And this will, if I start off, it will take another 15 minutes or so. So I will stop my session here. This PPT will be available. I will share it with the committee, and maybe they can pass it over to the beneficiaries. So I will stop here.
I request CA Mamta Rajni to please cast a formal vote of thanks to ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ashita. I'd like to ask if any one of the members have any queries. Like on the admin panel, I can see some few queries. I would like to raise some of them.
Yeah, please.
Ma'am, one of the queries from Meenu Garg ma'am, what are the provisions to deduct TDS at a low rate of for NRI?
So under 195, I think we can still make an application. So what I understand is if there's a transaction for an immovable property where an NRI wants to sell a particular property, then in that case, he can still go ahead with lower TDS application to the concerned officer. So 195 is very well covered under 197 section, which is an application for lower TDS or a nil TDS.
Okay. I hope Meenu Garg ma'am gets her answer. Other question is, in case of life insurance policies being sold by bank agents, who will ensure whether advance tax is paid by agent? I think this question is not to be covered here. Yeah, ma'am, if you can answer this.
But is it pertaining to TDS? So
yeah, it is not pertaining to TDS. We can skip the same.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, only few. 194R is asked to be covered. However, you have covered it very well.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I would like to propose a vote of thanks for the session, for the first session. It is my pleasure to extend vote of thanks for this particular very learning session. The session had a very practical insight regarding FAQs and the intention of the government as well as CBDT for TDS and TCS provisions. It was really great, ma'am, to hear for you. Also, I would like to extend a vote of thanks for the Women Members Empowerment Committee. The efforts for conducting this Wednesday sessions are really commendable. I would like to express a sincere thanks to CA Hetal Gada ma'am for such a knowledgeable session. Thank you all members for being with us during the session. We shall start the next session in few minutes. Over to you, Ashita.
Yeah, just one. I would just like to say that thank you everyone for a patient hearing, and thank you to the committee and Preeti Savla to give me this opportunity. I think you guys are doing a very great job for pushing all the women CAs to come out and express and prove themselves and share their knowledge. So thank you a lot for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Hetal ma'am. Thank you, Mamta. Moving on to our next session, which is on useful tools for team management and better CA practice. We have with ourselves CA Meenakshi Bherwani ma'am. To introduce her formally, I request CA Ashwini Doshi to please take up the introduction. Ashwini ma'am.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, please go ahead.
Yeah. It's my pleasure to introduce Meenakshi.
Ashwini ma'am, you are on mute.
Yeah, I'm on mute only. Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Ashwini ma'am, you're on mute.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so it's my pleasure to introduce Meenakshi Bherwani. She started early. She started teaching foundation class. She completed business CA. She has completed CS and got a second rank at All India level. And she was the first in the Udaipur branch. She was also winner of Samta Devi Award, winner of scholarships of ICASI, and she was the 20th rank holder in CA Foundation. She is a certified mentor of Oxford Brookes University. She had worked in UAE for 7 years. She had also introduced Global CA, ACCA in Udaipur and other international courses. She has completed her design in 2015 and also in 2019. She has completed her ship in 2020 with Oxford Brookes University. She's been with having such a wide knowledge. She's a good speaker and she's sharing her knowledge at ICI level. She's also giving a lot of sessions of mnemonic techniques at many schools, colleges, and ICI branches. She is also a very good motivational speaker. She has been awarded for education by Times of India, Dainik Bhaskar, Rajasthan Patrika, Rukmani Foundation, Miraki. She has received Miraki Award. She is also given a big Guru Sanman from Big FM. She is one of the Super 100 Women by Rotary Udaipur. That's really a marvelous thing she has achieved. She has been a director of PC Education in Education. She is also at BL Shah from Udaipur, and now she has been a secretary of ICI Udaipur branch. She has received the Best Commendable Branch Siska Award for the branch in her tenure. She has recently introduced mnemonic placards of ACA for ACCA students to help students revise and retain their syllabus via a game. So, such a marvelous person she is. So, I'm sure you're all eager to hear from her. Welcome, Meenakshi.
Meenakshi ma'am, you're on mute.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for such a wonderful introduction. Thank you. I'll just share my screen before we begin with the session. So, I was told to, have a small presentation on the tools which we can use in the office. So, as far as I believe that as we women, we are into multitasking already, and it's like I hope my screen is visible. My screen visible. So, as women, anyways, we are into multitasking from home to managing the offices to managing the kids. At the same time, we try to do everything so perfectly. So it's very, very important that when we are managing our offices, there's some technological help which we get from the free tools which are available on internet. As an entrepreneur, as a person who is also practicing, I found it very difficult managing everything together, especially the team members. At the same time, managing the home, which is the part and parcel and prescribed syllabus of our life. So there were few tools which I found very effective, and I hope that at the end of the session, all the members who are attending this particular session, they'll be able to use it. And the best part is these tools are available free of cost. The only thing is that we need a little bit of training on this. I know we have a time constraint. I'll try to sum up as many tools as possible so that you can pick and use whatever tools you like. So before we start off, just a basic introduction. So one thing is that I feel that, again, as female members, kind of challenges we have, maybe those challenges are little less in case of male members. I'm not being gender biased though, but this is a part and parcel. So here, how we can meet up these challenges is that we can try and be a little more you can please mute. Okay, thank you so much. So the first thing which we need to understand is thinking out of the box. So once you start thinking out of the box, or once you start finding the ways out, the shortcuts where we can multitask and manage, well, one thing, we don't have to work too much on it, because as female, you are born multitasker. The only thing is that we need to find ways out to bring out the efficiency. So here's a small question before we start the session, just to involve you all. Antony and Cleopatra found dead on the floor of villa in Egypt. There are pieces of broken glasses. There's only one witness, which is the dog. They were not poisoned. There are no marks on their bodies. So can you just try to guess how they died? Anyone? I think I can see the chat box, maybe. So you have any guesses how they died? Okay, so basically, Antony and Cleopatra were fishes. So they just, the glass broke and they came out of the pool and they died. As a mentor also, and as a chartered accountant also, I believe that the best thing we all females can do is maybe connect. So networking is something which is very, very important for us. And if you need to spare out time for networking, so generally I think these tools which we are going to talk about are going to maybe help you in networking, because the problem is that we are not able to spare out time from our schedule, meeting people, networking, and this is where the opportunities are taken up by those people who have ample of time to network, to meet people, right? So yeah, I'll just come on to
Meenakshi ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Can we maximize the PowerPoint presentation?
Oh, is it
Yeah, it's in a minimized format.
Okay, I mean, 1 second, let me check. Sharing screen. So maybe I'll share my screen then. Is it better now?
So you will have to go slideshow, and then you have to click on from beginning.
Yeah.
From current slide. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Is it fine?
Yeah, now this is fine.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So there was a small question in the slide. I'll just come on to that one. So which bulb you think is the brightest bulb? And if you pick and choose one of the bulb right here, let me tell you, all of them are completely of the same, watt. So if you're able to see one bulb as the brightest bulb or a brighter bulb, this is how those were all equal. This is how you stand out, and this is how you need to adopt some skills which are technological skills. I know that there was one subject added, and as chartered accountant students, we were really frustrated with that subject, which was information technology. But only after a few years, we realized the importance of that particular subject, because if you are pro at it, you can multitask and you can do many, many things in a very short span of time. So without wasting much time, I'll just come straight to the topic. But before we start off again, this is just kind of a motivational quote that if you feel that you're stuck, As again, I will reiterate that if you feel that you are stuck as a female member because you have to manage your practice, you have to manage your office, you have to manage your home, don't worry, we all are sailing in the same boat. So we all are sharing the same story, and we all are trying to be perfectionist in every field, despite of the fact that we're required to multitask at multiple levels. So first software which might help you in your multitasking process is Notion. This is one software which really helped me organize my work. So I was handling a team of 10-12 people, and I was really confused because every time I had to spend time with them every morning, 1 hour, half an hour, to tell them what they're supposed to do, and the evening again I had to spare out time to check whether they did what I told them to do or not. And this entire process led to my 2 extra hours, and we know how much importance even 1 hour or 30 seconds 30 minutes the time frame is for us, because in that 30 minutes for me, and I know all the women who are practicing, at least the people whom I interacting with, 30 minutes we can cook a dinner, we can cook a lunch, we can in 30 minutes make our kids do their homework, right? So it's a huge amount of time. So I was finding it very difficult, and it's then when I started inquiring or checking free tools about CRM or team management tools. Notion was one team management tool which helped me like anything. So I'll just give you an example, and I'll try to demonstrate how you can use it. So here, just logged into my Notion account. So it is a free tool. Again, as I said, there's a free demo version available. And to start off with, the free demo version is more than sufficient. So I have been using this since few months, and we're still using it. So I did not feel the need of buying the paid version because the free version did wonders for my team. So this is how we set up. So all you need to do is go to www.notion.com. Once you go to this place, you have to create your ID using your Google ID, Gmail ID. And once you set up, so my ID is already set up in here, then you have an option to communicate to your employees, to your entire team members about each and everything. So this is my institute. So we have just set up the logo and the backdrop picture. What all we can communicate to the employees right here is about the team objectives, right? The mission and the values of the team. So generally, this is something we forget to communicate to the employees, and we do not find the time to communicate to the employees. Bhaiya, basic kaam to ho jaye day to day ka. Then we'll tell them what is the mission, what am I, visualizing this organization as, and where do I want this organization to be after 3 months or 6 months or 5 years down the line. Itna time nahi hota. But then what if you mention it right here? What if you mention the company goals every year? So maybe company goals 2020, 2022, 2023. This is something you can start off with January, and you can mention the goals of 2023 and maybe take it up as your newer resolution where you want your organization to go. Employee directory. See, this has my employees added, few of them, and I've asked them to. So I did not do anything. I asked them to edit their names. These are the demo persons, but this is something they've done it on their own, right? So their details, everything. Again, this way you have a log maintained. So especially when you hire articles, I don't know how many of you have faced this, but I have faced it multiple times. So when there are fast changing, articles we are hiring, taking articles on board, especially if you are in a practice firm where there are many articles coming and joining and leaving. So you need to be in pace with the details of the articles. So this is something employee directory, which is going to help you a lot. So details of every article, right from the date they joined till the date their articleship will get over. They can enter it all, to the qualifications, to everything, every other degree they are pursuing other than CA. They can enter everything in the employee directory. Like you can see here, one example which I put for you. I've just opened a demo version. So here, this is something my employee has done himself. So I haven't done anything. You just need to instruct your articles that they need to update this section, and see here everything, right from the date of joining to the profile picture to everything, which is going to help you a lot. First, recognizing your employees, understanding what they need, and there are a few things they can add on their own, right? So like kind of, if you see vision, what is the vision? And sometimes these things really help you understand as a boss that what all growth expectations the employees have from you and how you can take them right there, right? The designation and everything. Now, coming back to the next part. So this is something which I found like really useful. I'll go back to the general portion again. Now, vacation policy. This is something which is very important. I mean, I was struggling with this initially because every time an employee came, I would communicate them very clearly. It was mentioned in the appointment letter that there is no sick leave available. There are only 14 days or 15 days leave available per annum, and this is how they have to utilize the leave. But still then there would be some chaos, confusion. So it's always good to have it in writing, whatever documents, whatever rules, regulations regarding the vacation. So we also made it a rule because especially during the year close and during the deadline time, the employees would take holidays, to take leaves unnecessarily and without prior information. So we made it a rule in the organization that if you do that and without prior information, if you take a leave, especially during the deadline time, we'll mark it as 2 days holidays, right? But then again, every time a new employee would join, every time we have to communicate that. So you can put everything like that in the office manual, right? The benefits, the expense policy, everything, how many expense, like I'll give you one more example for the expense reimbursement. So there was this task assigned to a team and they were required to go travel places for the same task. When the team was hired, because we knew that they have to travel places, not outside the city, within the city. So we gave them a little higher package. Anyways, we gave them a higher package, right? And then to our surprise, at the end of it, the team came up saying that, we need petrol reimbursement, fuel reimbursement payments, like these are the bills. When this was never communicated, when there was no discussion like that. But if in the expense policy you mention the same thing, it's always in writing, and then it's their fault if they did not read that. Also, we'll come on to this. The best part about this, when I'm talking about this particular software, I found something which was very, very interesting, which was the task. Right. So these are the tasks. So the best part about anything about these particular softwares is that you can create tasks in that. And when I'm saying that you can create tasks, I mean that you can actually assign them tasks. You don't have to invest half an hour, 1 hour in the morning. All you need to do is get up, create the task, assign it to the people, to the employees, but they have to also download it. The best part is that this can be downloaded in their mobile phones. Okay, so we provided all of them company mobile phones. The reason for providing them company mobile phones was because the tasks were little confidential and we didn't want them to take it back home, the details and the list and everything. So this was assigned on company's mobile phone. In case your tasks are not that case sensitive, you can ask them to download it in their own personal mobile phones. And then in that particular task, they can, once they're done with the task, they can put notes, they can put commands and everything. Right. So this was something which was very, 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 very important for us. So if you see this, I'll just give you a brief through this one. Okay. Apologies. I'll have to just put the charger on. So I hope this is audible now. Put the charger on. Yeah. Okay. So if you see to this, there are certain tasks which are given right here. There are certain tasks which are given right here. All I can do is I can assign. I can create the team leader of the task and I can create members, and then the due date can be allotted for the task. So I can mention any due date by when they are supposed to do the task. Now, as I said, that they can download this app in their mobile phone. I can add reminders. So that is that was something which was like really annoying for me. And this was one phrase I used to use for my entire team, that the more people I'm hiring, I feel that they are hiring me as their personal secretary, because I had to remind them the task, and especially the lot which we are dealing with, the youngsters. If you hire very young people, especially the articles, you have to play that role of, reminding them again and again. So why do I invest my time doing that? Rather, let the app do it. So I can add reminders. I can, I can add reminders for myself also if there is a due date. If they cross the due date, I just have to spare 5 minutes a day and check If the due date is crossed, I can give them a note or a mark. And in that case, my performance appraisal also can be done at the end of the year. So at the end of the year, if you want to appraise the performance of an article when they are sitting at the table for increments, for promotions, you can just tell them straight that, see, these were the tasks I allotted you and you never completed this task in time. Or this particular task was 10 days overdue, 5 days overdue, where it was supposed to be done on deadline time. This kind of detailing and this kind of precision, we cannot do manually. I mean, at least what, as far as I remember, when we were having manual systems, everybody knew that January, February will be sitting for increments or will be sitting for discussions as regards to the performance appraisal. And all of a sudden, all the employees would become efficient by December, January. So last 2 months, because they feel that the employer has that memory value of only last 2 months. And it actually works. It actually works every time. So if last 2 months my employee was super efficient, I will be like little lenient during the performance appraisal time. But if I have this log, I will sit with the raw data, with the proper data, and tell straight to the employee that these are the things where you were lacking, and this is how your performance appraisal should ideally go. So the thing is that when as a team mentor, as a team leader, as an entrepreneur, if you're managing a team, it's very important that you do not give increments to the people who do not deserve it. At the same time, give increments to the people who deserve it. So there are some employees, and especially some articles, who do not know how to be very wise when it comes to presenting themselves, but they're very good at their work. So they will never go in for these tactics of last moment, displaying very good image or impression. And you might end up not giving them increments. You might end up not understanding that they did all their tasks in time. They finished all their tasks without you having the need to remind them. Then in that case, you will be losing a very good resource. So that's going to be a big loss for the organization. So I think this is something which is going to help you exactly in maintaining a track of this. Priority, you can also set priority for the task. Like, for example, you assign 4 tasks to an employee. We cannot expect them to have that much sense of maturity to judge which task is to be done first, which task can be done second, or which task, even if done after 2 days, will be okay, but this task is urgent, has to be done by today, has to be finished by today. So in that case, you can just edit the priority, or you can just mention the priority, like what kind of priority it is. Is it very urgent? Is it very, okay kind of a task? All you need to do is just select this high priority. I'm just marking it as high priority, right? Here, you can put down your comments, or even your employee to whom you have assigned the task can put down his or her comments, right? You can add columns to it. The best part about this is you can add multiple columns. So you can go here. Suppose specific to your organization, you need the feedback of the employee as to why the task was not done in time, what happened, what went wrong. So in that case, you can actually add extra bars, and you can put whatever tags you want to put, right? So maybe as per specific to your work, okay, return done, this return filed, or whatever, these are the comments you can put. Okay, if there are any contact numbers at the end of it, they were supposed to communicate to somebody, and if there were some contact numbers they were supposed to get, you can add one tab of contact numbers and maintain a log of that. So that's one task diary feature of this software, which is an ultimate feature, and we have been using it like anything. And it has increased the efficiency of the organization to many-fold times. Also, we were finding it quite difficult at a certain point of time maintaining all the documents. So we had the resource pool documents, like the list of vendors, the list of employers, the list of people from whom we can get the resources. We were finding it pretty much difficult because we were maintaining it on Google Sheets. But if you use Google Sheets to any extent, you would understand and you would agree to the point that if you're using Google Sheets a lot, then in that case, you tend to get mingled up. You have to search for every sheet. And you cannot maintain all the sheets at one tab because you might want to share certain documents with some people. You might not want to share certain documents with some people. So herein, this another feature of documents is again a very interesting feature. Now, in the feature of documents, you can actually upload the documents, right? You can actually upload and mention the documents, and you can share it with the people you want to share it. So it has limited access. You will be sharing the documents only. So maybe if I'm putting down a document, it can be in any format, right? And then here again, particularly share it with few members, okay, created by me because I am creating it, and then I can share it with the people I want to share. So only the people I am planning to. So you can actually create your ERP software. This is what happens in ERP software. Only the people who are authorized to get certain information, they can see the information, and the rest of the team, I don't want them to see the documents. They will not be able to see the documents. So that's one best part about it. Okay. Other than this particular feature, okay, you can organize meetings. You can organize other tasks here, right? So if you can see, and you can create multiple bars. Okay. So multiple bars creating a matlab hai ki if suppose I am working in 2-3 projects, if I am also taking care of income tax, if I'm also taking care of maybe indirect GST returns, and there is a different team of income tax, there is a different team of GST, I can create multiple logins. So if you can see this, I have created here multiple logins. There is a different log for my digital marketing team. This is a different log. And here the employees are only my digital marketing employees. And this is again, because the organization is same. So the page looks similar. And this is a different log. See, you can just see my left side of the screen. Yeah, this is a different log. And this is a different log. Right? So you can create multiple logs in this. All you need to do is just go to general and add the logs. The software is very much, see, your team spaces, I just have to create a new team space. I can create as many team spaces as I want, and I can create groups. So one group will not be interacting with the other group. And as far as these mission values and everything is concerned, you just have to copy and paste, nothing more than that. So this one feature of task diary specifically is going to help you a lot and help your employees also a lot, because tasks can be created with reminders. And as I said, that this can be downloaded in the mobile phone. So if they have it in their mobile phone, it's gonna be a reminder like any other call. There'll be a ringtone and they'll remember, okay, this is the time I have to finish this task. So nothing better than that. And you don't have to follow it a bit again and again. Once the reminder is there, till the task is completed, it will keep on snoozing itself like the alarm clock, right? So this is one software, you can give it a try, Notion. There are some advanced features of the software, but I don't think so that at the beginner's level, you would need it. Once you want to upgrade, once you feel that, there is more storage required, there are more tasks required, you can use the paid version of it, which is also not very expensive. But for a small organization, I think the unpaid version is more than sufficient. So this was the first category of the software we were talking about. The second category of the software is, of course, Google Calendar. Now, again, the main part of managing a team is basically, as I said, reminding them about the task. So even if you tell them straight at the time of their joining that, see, this is the task you're supposed to do and these are the things you have to do. Still then, it's like a constant process. If you have been dealing with the employees' articles, it becomes a constant process, reminding them again and again about the task they're supposed to do. Again, Google Calendar is something which is a blessing in disguise. Google Calendar also can be easily downloaded. The app, in most of the Android phones, it is automatically there on download mode. It's already there in the software list. Otherwise, you can ask them to download it in their mobile phone, log in via their email ID. And I'll just show you this. I think many of you must have used this feature, but yeah, it's really very interesting feature. And again, we have been using this Google Calendar like anything. So I used Google Calendar because it so happened that my team members were giving appointments to the people who wanted to meet me without checking with me. Or sometimes there'll be a time slot given to two people simultaneously. So that was one problem which I faced, that if maybe say 4 p.m. I'm sitting in my office and 3 people who come to meet me and they're sitting and waiting, and I would not want them to wait unnecessarily. And for me, choosing whom to have the meeting with first and who are the other 2 people I want them to wait for me to get over with my first meeting, then the second meeting. So it was like really, really little chaotic. To sort this, we started using Google Calendars. Now, Google Calendars, I asked all my employees to join in, and this was the basic office ID which was given to them, and this was like my calendar space. So, if suppose I'm booking a calendar, my employees are planning to book a calendar, book a slot for me for someone's meeting, they can easily refer this. All they have to do is log into the account and they can check. Like I think WMEC also created, so I've created one particular calendar note here right now that this was the meeting time, WMEC meeting time, so that they do not schedule my lectures or my sessions during this time, right? Again, maybe if I'm planning to, I just opened Google Calendar, logged into my Google. If I'm planning to have a meeting with somebody, maybe on 16th of November, which is, or 17th of November, which is like 8 days after, I might say yes now, and then later on I might forget, and I might forget to inform my team also. And in that case, they might schedule another meeting during the same time. So all I need to do is I need to create the event. You can also use it as a task diary. I'll come on to that later. So you can also create an event. And event may you can just mention the meeting or whatever. So maybe a meeting with text, and you can create reminders and the time zone. I just clicked entered. I'll just do it again. Event, and then I've created meeting with text, and then I can select the time slot. Like you can see the time zone, the day, and the time slot. I can pick a time slot, maybe 6:45, and does not repeat. If there is a repetitive meeting, I can also go in for weekly on Thursday. So again, you don't have to create that meeting again and again. In the loop mode, it will just have the alarm itself on regular basis. And then you can maybe add reminders also in that case. If there is a meeting like this where you need a reminder, you can create a reminder, and you can create a repetitive mode reminder also. If it is a weekly meeting, if it's a monthly meeting, this is something you can do, and just save it. Now, the moment I save it, you can see it right here. So can my team. So my team can also see it, and my team can also schedule my events, my entire calendar accordingly. I can also involve people if there is this meeting where I want to involve people. I'll show you a new one. Maybe a meeting with the entire team. So I want the team to remember that I have a meeting with them. So in that case, team meet. And I can add as many guests as possible. The invitation goes directly to their Gmail. And I think this is something WMEC also did, because I also got an invitation on my email about today's event. So this is something which we can all use. So maybe I can add the email IDs to whom I want to send an invite. And this way, they will also get to know. So I usually, when I book my calendar, when I have some meets and when I don't want my team to schedule anything, I book the event as a reminder to me. If I don't want to share my email ID with them, I also share this event details with them so that I don't forget sharing the details later on, right? Of course, task is one thing, which is again a very, very interesting feature. If you do not want to use Notion, or if you think Notion will be too much of a complication for you, because there'll be little time required from your side, maybe an hour or so to go through the software. Although I've told you a lot, I was doing a research on my own. So it took time for me to understand how things are to be done, but did not take more than half an hour or 1 hour. But this is an easier version of Notion. The task diary here at Google Calendar is an easier, much easier version of Notion. But yeah, trust me, once you spare out that 1 hour, half an hour to understand the software, your workspace is going to increase like anything. So here in Team Meet, if I am trying to set a task, okay, so I can just maybe get the holdings done. Okay, so I'm a little biased. I'm just setting the actual task which I wanted to. So herein, maybe I'm giving the deadline to the employee that maybe is to get the task done by tomorrow 7:15 p.m. and doesn't repeat, and add the description. Get it done latest by the existing Okay, so this is something you can add and say. You can invite your team members like we did. We can just invite the team members to be a part of this. You can add people to your log calendar. So this way they can see your calendar. I'm just adding people to my calendar. Okay, so this is how you can maybe send them the email that you have added them to the calendar. They can see the events, they can be a part of the events, and they can understand the task. But task diary here is not going to be as sophisticated as Notion has, because in Notion you can even understand at what level of task the employee is. Because here, if I go back here, the employee can mark if the task is started, if it is half complete, if it's like almost done. So all these things can be marked by an employee here, which cannot be done in Google Calendar. That's the only feature. But if there is like a small task and you want some employee at a lower level who's not very well versed with the technology, then you can use the Google Calendar. That's one free tool again, and that again can be downloaded in your mobile phone. So the best part about mobile apps is that once a software is there in my mobile phone, the reminders and the notifications will be there, and your employee cannot make an excuse that they could not see the notification, because if they can see the WhatsApp, Instagram notification, they can sure see the notification related to work. So another software, another free tool here is Jamboard. So Jamboard is exactly what? Let me tell you. So Jamboard is again a free software available via Google. So what made us use Jamboard was initially in the workspace we had this whiteboard, and the whiteboard we would take team meets, and I would just chalk out at the whiteboard that these are the tasks to be done, and I'll leave the task there, and the team members would come and cancel the task what they have done. So this was kind of a motivation for all the team members. The whiteboard acted as a motivation for all of them. And we thought that, yeah, this works well as a task diary. The whiteboard could also narrate them the flow chart of the event. So suppose I'm planning an event in the month of December, what are the steps they have to take and what is the flow process which is to be followed. So Jamboard is something similar to that. So I hope you can see my screen. So herein, I'm talking about Jamboard. Jamboard is kind of a whiteboard. So exactly the way, the traditional way of doing the work, the traditional way of handling the office space is like right here. And I can present this Jamboard in a live meet. That means I can start a Google Meet. If you can see the icon here, I would not start because I'm scared. I'll just disconnect this particular meet. So I can start a Google Meet by clicking at this icon. I can share the link with everybody. And in a live meet, I can create this task calendar. So maybe 1 second, I'll just erase this everything and show it to you fresh. The only problem with the Jamboard is that you have to create multiple screens, and like in PPTs, once you create a background, it can be used for all the slides. But Jamboard, you have to start afresh. So it's like kind of a blank slide which is given to you. You can explain your employees. So I can take a pen and chalk out the process. So maybe if I'm right here, it's 9th November. We're planning something for 14th November. I can chalk out the details as to what we are planning and what is the plan for December. You can create flow charts. You can also add text bars here. So in text bars, you can add whatever task you want to add, or maybe the team roles. Right? You can add images to explain them as to what all things they should be doing. So you can upload the images, or you can use Google Images, right? Or the Google Photos you uploaded on the Google Drive, you can use that. There are sticky notes which you can use to act as a reminder for them that these are the things which they have to take care of. So maybe take care of team meets. Any sticky note you want to add herein. So, and then we're done. See, you can add multiple sticky notes. You can add reminders for them. And the best part is once you're done with explaining them what are the tasks, or maybe suppose there is an event and you want to explain them that this is how we have to go about the event, you've added sticky notes, you have made the flow chart. I'm very bad at drawing, so this is a very, very pathetically drawn flow chart. But you've done everything. Once you're done with everything, you can share it with all of them. So that means the problem with that whiteboard was that sometimes, and it happened one time, not on regular basis. One time my peon was planning to clean the office, and finally after many days he thought that now I need to have a very, very clean office. So he started cleaning the office and he cleaned the whiteboard also. So there was this team meet we had, and we took like 2 hours of setting up that entire process, that this is how we are going to do. And we finally came up to a conclusion, and we had drawn a flow chart on that whiteboard, and my peon cleared it all like crystal whiteboard. And then the entire data was gone. But fortunately not, because I have a habit of clicking the pictures, so it was there in my mobile phone. But otherwise you would have lost the entire data. But here you do not, because you can share it with people. You can share it, allow them to make some changes in the board. If you don't want to just have a restricted access, they can just view it and they can use it for their purpose. But if you want them to cancel the task which they have done, you can do that also. Right. So this entire software log is, I think, very, very useful, and we can use it all. And as I said, the best part is, one, they can be downloaded in the mobile phone. Second, they're free of cost. And third, they can be used by anyone. All you need to do is just spare 15-20 minutes and understand how they operate. And they're so user-friendly that once you start operating them, you will feel that, it's as good as operating Instagram or Facebook. Okay, and then there are lists of softwares, but I think we do not have much time, because I was supposed to wind up the session by 6:55. It's already 6:55. So there are lists of other softwares, but I would surely recommend you to just go and check in case you haven't used it. Google Sheets, this is how we started our work. So when we started our work, we started the entire work on Google Sheets. So Google Sheets was one way of, communicating. It's like kind of a live dashboard where we could communicate to the other employees. So if I had some, extra, maybe inquiry numbers, maybe some client numbers, then I would put it on the Google Sheet. Now my counselors and the employees would know that this is the number they have to call on. Then they would write their feedback. So I know what process has exactly taken place. I was the initiator of the process, and how the communication went and what is the end result. Google Slides is another thing. I mean, this is one thing which I find very, very convenient. My entire data is on Google Drive, Google Sheets, and Google Slides. The reason is that although I carry my laptop wherever I go, and I think we all do that, but at times it's not feasible and it's not practically possible to have all the slides, all the pictures, all the data in your laptop, because you need to at the same time make sure that the laptop is fast enough. It's not very slow, so you need to keep it empty. You cannot just use the entire space. Depends completely on how much amount of work you have. So my entire pictures and photographs, news prints, etc. are there on Google Drive, and Google Slides and Google Sheets are the ones which I use for my data handling process. We have actually bought, because I think at the point of time you would feel like buying the space. So we have actually bought the space, so there's so much of data. The best part is that it so happened that a couple of times I was traveling and I was expected to take a seminar, and I was not prepared. But I was not really ready that during the travel time I will have to take a seminar. Kind of person I am. I never say no to seminars because I love interacting with people. I love taking sessions, and I think this is a very good knowledge exchange process. If I can deliver something to some people, it's going to be amazing for both of us. So I was required to take a seminar, and I remember all my slides of all the seminars which I prepared were on Google Drive. I was not carrying those slides in my laptop because my laptop already has a lot of technical slides. It took me only 5 minutes to go to Google Drive, Google Slides, and get my slides. And yes, I was ready for the seminar. So yeah, this gives you a kind of remote access to everything. So do try this, and it's high time now that we start saving data on clouds, and instead of just having everything in our drive, because there is a lot of probability of everything going corrupt. So I think this is one good method of handling our entire work. Plus now if I talk about the offices, we have numerous number of files. We want to save everything. it's better that we save it on the Google Drive. So this is one thing I would want you to just inquire more about. But because of the lack of time, I won't be able to discuss much about it. I just wanted to finish the session in time. So yeah, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this session, and I hope you have something to take away today from this session. And I'm sure you are going to use some of the other tools, especially Notion, if you can inquire more about it. Yeah, and if there are any queries and questions, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to address them.
Do we have any questions? The way you have explained the session, there is no questions at all. I think everyone is super clarified on the topic. We don't have any questions. So please accept our heartfelt gratitude, ma'am, for the way you have taken us to this session on behalf of WMEC. The way you have taken us through this topic was remarkable, and the way you have cleared each and everything is really appreciable, that there is no queries in the mind of participants. Thank you very much for sparing your valuable time for our delegates present this evening. I, CA Ashrita Shah, take your leave and wish you all a great weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.